At the very peak of television history, when Jim Parsons stood unmatched as the brilliant, eccentric force behind Sheldon Cooper, something unimaginable was unfolding behind the scenes. For 12 unstoppable seasons, the world lived inside the universe of The Big Bang Theory, quoting Sheldon's lines, laughing at his quirks, and celebrating a character who reinvented modern sitcoms. Nearly 18 million viewers tuned in every week. Jim Parsons raked in $1 million per episode, becoming the highest-paid actor on television, crowned by Forbes as comedy's untouchable king. He had everything: fame, fortune, and a character immortalized in pop culture. So why would a man standing at the top of the world suddenly walk away? Why abandon a role that made him a global icon? Why leave a show still dominating ratings? Everyone thought they knew the answer, but the truth goes far deeper into grief, fear, and a single moment on set that shattered Jim Parsons and led to the infamous scene that made him quit The Big Bang Theory. In 2018, between season 11 and season 12 of The Big Bang Theory, Jim entered the darkest, most overwhelming period of his life. He and his husband, Todd Spiewak, were caring for their beloved dog of 14 years, a dog that had been with them almost their entire adult lives together. As the dog's health began deteriorating rapidly, Jim was simultaneously performing 8 Broadway shows a week in New York City in the revival of The Boys in the Band, while flying back and forth to Los Angeles for filming whenever the sitcom required it. He was torn between two coasts, to careers, and to responsibilities. The pressure became unbearable. During one emotional walk in Central Park, just hours before he had to shoot a commercial, Jim looked down at his dying dog and felt the weight of everything crush him. At once, Todd Spiewak reminded him of obligations: the commercial team, the filming schedule, the commitments they had made. Yet Jim couldn't do it this time. He broke down crying in the park, overwhelmed with guilt that despite all his fame, all his money, all his success, he couldn't be where he truly needed to be, next to the creature that had loved him for 14 years. The next morning, they made the heartbreaking decision to let their dog go peacefully at home. Jim thought he would recover emotionally, but before he could even take a breath, something else happened, something that pushed him closer to the edge. Just days after losing his dog, while performing another show on Broadway, Jim fractured his foot badly, yet he finished the performance anyway, limping, sweating, forcing his way through the pain, because that's what everyone expected from him. That's what he expected from himself. Only later at the hospital did terror set in. The human body is fragile, it breaks without warning. And for a man whose entire identity and career depended on physical performance, that realization shook him deeply. Fear began whispering questions he didn't want to hear. What if I can't perform anymore? What if my body gives out? What if everything I built disappears? But the darkest thought hit next, the one that changed everything. In 2018, Jim Parsons turned 45, and for the first time, he started thinking about the age his father died, -52. Suddenly, Jim found himself counting the years. If he signed the proposed new contract, one that could have carried The Big Bang Theory into season 13 and season 14, he would be 47. By the time it ended, only 5 years away from the age his father never reached, mortality hit him like a tidal wave. It wasn't superstition, it was math, it was fear, it was humanity. Then came the most haunting question of all. Did he want to spend those precious years playing the same character on the same stage, repeating the same beats, wearing the same superhero t-shirts over and over? Meanwhile, Todd Spiewak had been encouraging Jim to focus more on their company. That's Wonderful Productions, which already had a major deal with Warner Bros. Television. But Jim was never available. Between filming in Los Angeles, performing in New York, shooting the Netflix series Hollywood, and commercial contracts like Intel, he barely had time to sleep, let alone create new work with his husband. His body was exhausted, his mind was overwhelmed, his emotions were drained, and for the first time in his entire career, Jim Parsons admitted to himself that he could not keep going. In August 2018, he returned to Los Angeles, carrying the decision heavily on his shoulders. He went to the home of Chuck Lorre, co-creator of The Big Bang Theory, and told him the truth. He would not be signing on for seasons 13 and 14. Chuck Lorre didn't argue, he didn't push, he didn't beg. He simply listened, and he understood. And they both knew exactly what this meant. Without Sheldon Cooper, The Big Bang Theory could not continue. The entire premise, the title itself, revolved around Sheldon's world. No Sheldon, no show. A few days later, Jim brought the cast together in his dressing room. Johnny Galecki, Kaylee Cuoco, Simon Helberg, Kunal Nayyar, Mayim Bialik, and Melissa Rauch, the people he had worked with for over a decade, his television family. When Jim told them he was leaving, emotions filled the room. Some were blindsided, especially Johnny Galecki, who had hoped Jim would talk to them first. But even those who felt hurt eventually saw the bigger truth. Jim was the only one brave enough to say what they all felt deep inside, that the story was complete. On August 22, 2018, CBS made the announcement no one expected. Season 12 would be the final chapter of The Big Bang Theory, the longest-running multi-camera sitcom in television history. It wasn't failing ratings, because the numbers were still enormous. It wasn't creative burnout, because the writers had stories ready to go. The show ended for one reason. Jim Parsons chose himself. For years, headlines claimed Jim walked away from $50 million, but he later revealed the truth. No such contract ever reached his hands. He didn't reject a fortune. He never even saw the offer. His decision was made long before negotiations began. It wasn't about money, fame, or ego. It was a deeply personal choice, born from exhaustion, grief, and a moment of clarity that told him his time as Sheldon Cooper was complete. By the time the two-part finale aired, watched live by 5 million viewers, the journey of Sheldon had reached its perfect end. He had married Amy Farrah Fowler, won the Nobel Prize in Physics, evolved emotionally, and delivered one of the most heartfelt monologues in sitcom history. To Jim, continuing beyond that point felt wrong. He compared ending the show to closing a beautiful novel. You don't keep adding chapters just because readers want more. You end it where it feels honest. But Jim Parsons' story doesn't begin with fame. It begins decades earlier in Houston, where he was born, and in Spring, Texas, where he grew up. At just 6 years old, after watching a children's production of The Elephant Child, he knew he wanted to become an actor. From that moment on, nothing else mattered. At the University of Houston, he performed in 17 plays in 3 years, co-founded a theater company, and proved he had a work ethic unlike anyone else. His dedication earned him a coveted place in the elite Old Globe Theater graduate program. Only 7 students in the entire country were accepted that year. After graduating, he moved to New York City, grinding through auditions, rejections, and tiny roles. He appeared in Ed, Garden State, and Judging AMY, auditioning for 15 to 30 pilots that never got picked up. Years of struggle, years of almosts. Then came the audition that would change his life, The Big Bang Theory. His first reading as Sheldon was so sharp, so perfectly timed, that co-creator Chuck Lorre didn't believe it. He made Jim come back to repeat the performance. Jim did, and he delivered the same flawless, mathematical precision again. That was the moment the world met Sheldon Cooper and TV history was born. Even at the height of television fame, Jim never abandoned theater. He appeared in The Normal Heart, Harvey, and Act of God, and The Boys in the Band, which later became both a Tony-winning production and a Netflix film. His love for the stage was one of the main reasons he eventually walked away from sitcom repetition. After leaving the show, Jim didn't disappear. He evolved. He moved audiences in Spoiler Alert, earned praise in Hollywood, returned to Broadway, in Mother Play and Our Town, and even earned a Tony Award nomination. He continued shaping the Big Bang universe as narrator and executive producer of Young Sheldon. And now with the current spin-offs like Georgie and Mandy's First Marriage, and the multiverse-driven Stuart fails to save the universe on HBO Max, that new multiverse concept even opens the door for alternate versions of Sheldon Cooper. Versions Jim could potentially return to if he ever wished. And while Jim insists he won't return, creators remain suspiciously quiet, leaving fans hopeful. But no matter what the future holds, one truth remains: Jim Parsons didn't leave because he stopped caring. He left because he had given the world everything: his time, his heart, his energy, his talent. And now, for the first time in his life, he needed to give something back to himself. If this story moved you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, because the real stories behind Hollywood's brightest stars deserve to be heard. Thanks for watching.